a spiritual awakening. This was the young people at the time. And there was a lot of experimentation with drugs and in terms of helping with a spiritual awakening. At least that's what people thought they were going to experience. And then also there was this phrase that was coming up. It was called free love. Free love. And that was an expression that came out, and it was kind of in protest against the morality of the day. Well, in 1969, we had Woodstock, and that was kind of a continuation of that. I think it was 100,000 people or more. And in Michigan itself, there was a little farm out in Grass Lake, and they had 300 or 30,000 people that came. Another music fest with all of those things kind of mingled together. This was a new time, a new morality. And part of that was this free love that was taking place. Well, society was changed. I'm not so sure it was changed for the better, because the experiment with free love wasn't what it was thought it was going to be. In fact, we still bear the scars of what I would say was that social experiment. We see marriages break down. We see unwanted children, and nothing against single parents, but if that happens in life. But single parents, lack of fathers in the home, abortion, all seem to come out of that, stem from that free love kind of understanding of things. And so what people thought would bring freedom actually didn't. And what people thought was love actually wasn't. And so what I want today to do is to look at actually the rule, but when we come up against what somebody else wants, we have to make a choice. Well, is it just what I want, or do I have to negotiate a way through this so that I can love my partner here? And if you can't work out that negotiation, your marriage probably won't last. I was going to say that. If it's always built on just you, it's not going to last. Now, your kids, that's a different story, because they're going to last. They're yours. You're stuck with them. But there's ways in which that we still have to look and say, well, I know I'm the dad and I'm the boss, and so it should just be my way. But if I really listen to what they're saying, is there something that I can change that would make our relationship stronger and more lasting as a dad with my sons, or even with my grandkids now? Or imagine in the workplace where you go in and you want to get to the top. You want to get the promotion. You want to get this. You have goals you want to get towards. But to do that, you have to kind of, maybe step on somebody else on your way there. Well, what if you didn't do that? What if you tried to go into the office and say, I actually want to look at what's best in this other person, and I want to honor that, and I want to encourage them in that, and I want to lift them up. And if it means that I don't get there at the same time or the same place, I guess that's okay. You know what that's called? That's called the law of love. That's called loving somebody else as you would love yourself. Now, I've got to say that this is a challenge. It's not natural, but it is the summary of all things. As Paul is saying, you know what? If you're loving someone else, you're probably not going to sleep with their wife. That's what the Old Testament says, adultery. The 10 Commandments, don't commit adultery. That's probably not going to happen if you're loving your neighbor as yourself. So that's why he said, this is a summary of all things. If you're not reacting jealously to what your neighbor has, then you are practicing the law of love. And I say practice because it's something that doesn't happen overnight. How many of us know and love Jesus? Okay? I think most of us can raise our hand for that. We've committed our life to Jesus, and He's in the throne, He's on our throne. But again, that's just the beginning. Our Christian life takes all of our life to practice. I think some people get really old because God knows they need to practice even more. You know, that's what my mother used to say. She lived to be 92. And she said, I guess God's not done with me yet, but I sure wish I could go from this place now. She was a good, strong believer. But the idea is that we practice. And, you know, if I don't want to learn how to play the piano or the violin, but if I wanted to learn how to play an instrument, then I don't just sit down and pick up the instrument and start playing amazing. I practice. And the more I practice, the better I get. I had a sister who played the violin. In her early days, oh my God, it was the squeakiest, most horrendous sound that I ever heard. And I played the trumpet. And I remember when I would get upset that my parents were making me practice, my bedroom was on the second floor. I'd open the window and I just blast the raunchiest sound out the window that I possibly could. It was practice, you know. The neighbors all heard it and were really impressed. But practice, when we practice, we get better at